This is Dr. with Rangers of Wrestling, bringing their Tulsa Time post show. And for tonight, I'll be reviewing AEW Dynamite. Wow, so much to talk about tonight. Oh my god. But before we get into it, in case you guys didn't know, I didn't review Raw live. Actually, I didn't even do a Raw review because I was on vacation. I actually just got back today from vacation. So I'm a little tired and exhausted. But, anywho, let's get started with this review. So Dynamite opened up with CM Punk. Didn't watch Dynamite, but happy that Omega's back. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. All right, so it's kicked off with CM Punk, and he was basically saying that he was addressing the crowd as a world champion, and he was trying to put a tough face on, but the fans ruined it because they made him smile. He says he doesn't have the prettiest smile, but he has a pretty title. You didn't miss anything on Raw. It was a mixed bag show. Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. So they were in Virginia, and obviously we all know who's from Virginia, Hangman Adam Page. So he was basically talking about how he wanted Hangman Adam, or as he put it, someone from Virginia to accept a rematch right here, right now. And he says that if Hangman wanted his rematch, he had to come and get it. Now, Hangman doesn't come out. For whatever reason, he just doesn't come out. And Punk takes offense to this. And he said, that's not cowboy shit, that's coward shit. And he says, the apology must be allowed as he allowed the disrespect. So he says, everyone wants to be champion until it's time to do champ shit. All right. So it starts off good. Then he starts talking about Jon Moxley. Oh my God. So he says that Jon Moxley has always been number 2. He says he's been the third best guy in his own group, and it's been a recurring theme in Jon Moxley's career. Obviously, referencing the Shield, you know how it was Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and then Dean Ambrose was kind of just there. I was like, dang! When I heard that, I was like, oh my God! Reference the Shield, and he says that doesn't make him a bad guy; it just doesn't make him the best. And that between him and Moxley, the only one who broke bones was him. Because CM Punk did break his foot. Now, he goes on to say that Moxley has been interim, meaning temporarily, and that he needs to test himself against Moxley. I'm hearing clapping. I'm hearing clapping in the background. Oh, it's probably the fan. It's probably a fan. So he talks about how the Eddie Kingston is the third best Eddie he's ever been in the ring. So I'm assuming the first one is always Eddie Guerrero. The second one could be Eddie Edwards. I think it's Eddie Edwards. I can't think of another Eddie. Maybe Eddie Fatu, who was the late Umaga. So obviously Eddie Kingston's the third Eddie. And then he says the second best Kingston he's ever shared a locker room with, referring to Kofi Kingston. So I thought that was really, really great. When I heard those references, I was like, oh my God. I cannot believe it. All right. And then, so here's the thing. Like, All Out's going to be in Chicago. So he says that CM Punk goes on to say that it wouldn't be the first John he beats in Chicago for a belt. And Jon Moxley isn't number 1 at that either. I was like, oh my God, because if you guys recall, CM Punk beat John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 in the Allstate Arena in Chicago. And I was so like, oh my God. Yeah, glad they referenced me too. And it's funny because last year, John Cena made a reference to that when he said, I may even blow you a kiss goodbye. So it's so funny that he referenced that. Like, I really, really loved that. That whole first part of that promo was freaking amazing. Oh my God. Just a great freaking promo. All right, and then obviously this doesn't sit well with Jon Moxley. He comes out and he's basically saying that CM Punk is doing what he does best, dropping pipe bombs. He says he lives in a fantasy world and sometimes he isn't the best wrestler in catering, and that the microphone and all the words that he spits into it doesn't mean anything. He says the belt doesn't mean anything, and he's the heart and soul of his company. And when everybody calls him in here, it makes him think of Punk. Oh my god, but then CM Punk fires back by saying, if Moxley's a heart and soul, then he's a dollars and cents. I was like, oh god. I was like, they sold me this match just with this promo alone. Like, they really did. Like, I don't care if there's not a build for weeks. Like, they sold me the match with this promo. So then obviously a brawl breaks out. There's like slaps and back and forth palm strikes and closed fists. Security comes out, tries to break them apart. Moxley tries to jump the security pile. And like obviously it was just chaos. They also mentioned like John Moxley also tells CM Punk that we know you came to AEW because you ran out of money. You ran out of the fighting spirit a long time ago. I was like, oh my god. And like another thing that I thought was so hilarious was when John Moxley was coming out. You guys know how he comes out through the crowd, right? CM Punk was making Snow's Angels in the rings. This was a fantastic way to kick off Dynamite. Obviously, like I absolutely loved that promo. I loved all those references to the Shield, to John Cena. Oh my god, it was so great. Oh, and to Eddie Guerrero and to Kofi Kingston. Great references. Absolute great promo. Then we get a really quick Powerhouse Hobbs promo backstage where he's just talking about how like Ricky Starks showed his true colors and he's saying that he's not okay losing and that Ricky Starks hit behind his back and he doesn't just break backs, he breaks necks. So then we get in the incredible 2 out of 3 falls match is Daniel Garcia versus Bryan Danielson. Wow. Okay, so like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was special guest timekeeper for this match. And like Bryan like tried to get control of Daniel Garcia at the beginning. I like how like Chris Jericho makes reference to how he hasn't liked Ricky Steamboat since 2009, and it's probably because he fought Ricky Steamboat at Backlash in 2009. And so the first half of the match, like you had Daniel Garcia giving the suplex to Bryan on the floor. As you knew they were going to have a great 2 out of 3 falls match. Yeah, it was definitely a really great match. The thing I liked was that Daniel Garcia using the BCC L strikes and elbows to Bryan, like using Bryan's own moves against him. I really liked that he did that. And Daniel Garcia wins the first fall by putting Bryan to sleep. So I was like, I knew one of them was going to win the first fall, and I knew it was going to be Garcia. And I also knew that Bryan would win the second one, and it was going to come down to the third one. So I'm glad they went that route. Like, again, like, Garcia stomping on Bryan Danielson. I feel so tempted to call him Daniel Bryan. I don't know why. And once again, using Bryan's own moves against him. And so, like, Garcia has Bryan locked in for the Dragon Sleeper, but Bryan turns it into a pin. So he wins the second fall by pinfall. At some point during this part of the match, Bryan Danielson is busted open. And again, with the elbow strikes and the stomps, using Bryan's own moves against him. Fantastic slay. This was basically the Dragon Slayer versus the American Dragon. Who was going to prevail? In the end, after this incredible bout, Bryan Danielson beats Daniel Garcia after he locks in the label lock. And I really love the fact that Daniel Garcia didn't tap out. He passed out, similar to the way that Bryan Danielson passed out to him. Daniel Bryan, who, very funny. So, really good match. But let's talk about what happened at the end. So, obviously, Bryan Danielson showed respect to Garcia. He was clapping for him, and he was encouraging the audience to cheer for Garcia. And he offered his hand to Daniel. And Daniel looked like he was going to take it. But you guys remember, Chris Jericho was on commentary for this. So then Chris Jericho attacks Bryan. And Daniel Garcia saves Bryan from Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho's just looking at him like, what the hell are you doing? And the crowd starts chanting, "You're a wrestler," chants to Daniel Garcia. And so, like, Jericho leaves the ring, but not before telling Daniel to think about this. And then Bryan Danielson's still in the ring. So, Daniel looks torn between Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson. So, is he greatest technical sports entertainer of all time, or is he one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time? I think that's what we're gonna figure out. And I honestly cannot wait to see who he chooses. I honestly think he's gonna join the light side and go with Bryan Danielson in the BBC. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Daniel Garcia in the BBC. So then we get a quick backstage promo or segment with Swerve in Our Glory and Private Party. And they're basically talking about how they're going to take the tag titles back to New York. And that, Swerve strictly makes a point to say that they've been there that long and they're barely getting close to the tag titles. Yeah, it's true. It surprises me that Private Party, being one of the original tag teams in AEW, have yet to win the tag titles. So I don't know where they were going with this whole Toni Nese thing, but he briefly comes out, but he gets beat up by Jon Moxley, and he calls out CM Punk and tells him to unify the titles tonight. Punk comes out, and so does security. They're trying to pull them apart. Claudio Castelloni has to pull Moxley off of Punk, and he's holding him back from this chaos, from chaos, basically. And we find out that next week we're going to have CM Punk versus Jon Moxley for the AEW Undisputed World title. I don't know why that match is happening next week. I thought that was your All Out match, and I was actually really looking forward to that match at All Out. Like, that was the match I was looking forward to. So if that's not the All Out match, what is the All Out match? I mean, is that match going to have a clean finish? Is it going to be a rare screwy finish? Like, what's going to happen? I think the unpredictability of the finish is what makes it so interesting, because we don't know if Punk is going to beat Moxley clean, something gonna happen, like what's gonna happen in this match that might lead to All Out. I don't know, and I'm actually really excited that I don't know what's gonna happen. So then after that, we get a quick Jericho Appreciation Society segment backstage, and Jericho's basically talking about how he's gonna give Daniel Garcia a pass for what he did in the ring, for what happened after the match. And he's going to talk to him face-to-face next week in the ring. And he tells him better make the right decision. And then Ricky the Dragon Steamboat shows up and basically says that he thinks Bryan will be a better mentor for Garcia. And then he chops Angelo Parker. So again, this kind of tells me that Daniel Garcia is going to probably pick Bryan Danielson over Chris Jericho. I had one problem with Punk's promo, but outside of that, it was fire with him and Mox. What I'm curious, what was the one problem you had with Punk's promo? I'm very curious. I think it's going to be a screwy finish. You think? Oh, I don't know. That's what makes it so good, because we don't know it's going to be a screwy finish. It's going to be a clean finish, but it's going to be the all-out match. Then we had the Varsity Blondes versus Gunn Club, and I feel so bad for the Varsity Blondes because I feel like they haven't really done much in AEW. This was basically a squash match. The Gunn Club beat them in a short time. Really short time. But I guess it made sense based on what happened afterwards. So, like, the Gunn Club, including Billy and his two sons, they all hug. And Stokely Hathaway comes out, and the Gunn Club attack their dad. And then the Acclaim come out and rescue Billy. And, of course, they do the famous scissor me, daddy ass. And Billy hugs Anthony Bowens. Great squash match. I can't just forward to when I watch the show. Okay. So, obviously, probably the reason why it was a squash match, it was because the Gunn Club was going to turn on their dad. So, I feel like we kind of saw it coming because, like, Billy Gunn was being all hard on them. And then, like, now he went easy on them. So I feel like we kind of saw it coming. But I just feel so bad for the Varsity Blondes. I didn't like the comparison to other wrestlers he's faced. Eddie being the third best, Eddie, and the second best Kingston, LL, even the second best John. It just made me feel like, then why are you in AEW to face lesser competition? Oh, okay. I can kind of see. Okay. Yeah, because he was talking about that Eddie Kingston was the third best Eddie he's faced. Obviously, the first one being Eddie Guerrero. The second one, I'm assuming, was Eddie Edwards, and then Eddie Kingston was the third one. And obviously, the second Kofi was the first one for referring to Kofi Kingston. Why are they flip-flopping back and forth from Billy going from the Acclaim back to Sons and then back to Acclaim? I don't know, kind of like how they did with Luchasaurus. They better get those tag belts on the Acclaim at some point. Those guys are money. That is true. I do agree with you. But I like what you said here, Adam. It's just, interesting point. I haven't seen that point be brought up. So then we find out we're gonna get a trios match at All Out. Is Wardlow and FTR versus Lethal, Suntan Sin, and Sanjay Dutt. Billy Gunn, the hot potato expert. Oh my god! I'm actually shocked that this is gonna be that FTR is gonna be in this trios match because I that means the tag titles aren't getting defended at All Out, which I guess makes sense since the trios tournament is going on and the finals are taking place at All Out. This show had a lot of promos because we got a Death Triangle promo after this. It was basically talking about how like the United Empire likes to parade around like they're the best in England, and Paxis is looking forward to facing them next week with his brothers La Familia, and they will be victorious. Okay, so now we get into the really interesting Jungle Boy promo. Okay. We started talking about how a couple weeks ago he came out with a special t-shirt and he got in trouble for it. And he says that the shirt hit the nail in the coffin in the head for weeks now. He said that he's been trying to hit Christian Cage. As we know, he tried to hit him with a car, his hands, and chairs, but Christian Cage hasn't done anything about it. And the way he sees it is that he's basically going to continue chasing Christian Cage until he gets his hands on him or he can man up and face him at All Out. So obviously, Christian Cage being a typical heel, coming out and refusing to accept Jungle Boy's challenge. He says that last week Luchasaurus got suspended for headbutting a ref, and he is proud of Jungle Boy. Great Satan, the great value, great Kali in a match at All Out. What we need to see, Satan, his way through one move in a match. Yeah. So he said that he's proud of Jungle Boy because a year ago he wouldn't even formulate a sentence. That's true. Like Jungle Boy really didn't cut as many promos in his early years in AEW. He said that the frustration boiled over for them when they lost the tag titles, and he's basically saying that things got a little personal. I mean, it got really personal. Christian Cage talking about Jungle Boy's dad, the late Luke Perry. Like, who does that? Like, wow, he really did make things personal. But he basically says that at the end of the day, they're family. He loves him. He considers him a son. Of course, Jungle Boy didn't fall for this. He attacked and beat the tar out of Christian Cage. But then, like, Christian Cage sent him flying headfirst into the barricade. Like, you had Jungle Boy stomped on Christian Cage's arm on the steel steps. And it was just incredible. And that's definitely going to be the all-out match. It's not official just yet, but it's probably going to be the all-out match. And again, FTR after this, FTR cuts a promo backstage. It's so many promos. I'm telling you, this show had a lot of promos. They basically make reference to the fact that they weren't going to let Wardlow go out there alone. And it's the first time in a long, long time that they make reference to the Pinnacle. Because they say that nobody messes with the Pinnacle. And then that's the Axe versus Jay Lethal next week. So I'm surprised he mentioned the Pinnacle because MJF has been a no-show since the Dynamite in LA, and Sean Spears has been MIA too. So I'm surprised they even made reference to the Pinnacle. And if I recall correctly, Wardlow left the group after because of MJF. So are we doing the Pinnacle now with just FTR and Wardlow? Like, okay. We got Kylie King versus Toni Storm. Good match. Let me see. MJF will be back when Punk wins the World Championship. I think so. It makes perfect sense too. So this match was a decent match, but it was pretty short. It was really a really short match. Then we find out that Toni Storm is going to face Thunder Rosa at All Out. So I'll say I didn't like the fact that it was such a short match. I get that they were trying to make room for the main event, but it should have been a bit longer. I mean, you're both women's champions weren't on this show. We didn't really get any women's promos. This is the only thing we got, and it was really, really short. So I dislike that. So in the main event, it was the AEW World Trios Tag Team Championship Tournament quarterfinals match. It was Andrade, Idolo, Rush, and Dragon Lee versus the Young Bucks and a partner of their choosing. And I think we all knew who that partner was going to be. It was none other than Kenny Omega. I think we all saw this coming. I did. I saw it coming. So, like, Kenny Omega's back. And obviously, he hasn't missed a beat. Some of the spots in this match were Andrade and Omega having a stare down. Of course, you guys remember Omega was a three-bet champion, and he defeated Andrade to successfully retain that title. So there's history there. The blind shot to Omega as Jose distracted the referee. I like that triple drop kick to Matt by Dragon Lee, Rush, and Andrade. And I also like the triple super kick to Dragon Lee by the Elite. I think the Elite did a good job at one point isolating Dragon Lee from his team. Jose, the assistant, tripping Kenny. Of course, he's going to get involved with the ref distracted. And what about that spot where Omega went over the barricade into, like, the crowd? Really, really cool spot. And, of course, it was going to... I knew this match... It was cool to see Rush and his brother Dragon Lee teaming up after they put one hell of a match at Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor. I knew this was going to happen. So, in the end, Omega does the V-trigger to Dragon Lee, and the Bucks, each member of the Bucks, holds Rush and Andrade. Then Omega hits the one-wing Angel to Dragon Lee, and the Elite win the match. Don Callis coming out with him got me so hyped. That was my favorite part of Kenny's title run. Him on commentary during Kenny's matches. Speaking of commentary, I like how commentary said the bad news is Don Callis is with him. That was hilarious. But I have to say, this was a good match, good main event. I liked it. I think it was predictable in the way that we knew Kenny Omega was going to come back. And we knew that since Kenny Omega was coming back, that meant the Elite was going to win this. I'm kind of disappointed because I really wanted Andrade, Rush, and Dragon Lee to advance. But I knew it was going to be the Elite. But I don't take anything away from that because it was a good match. It was enjoyable. You know, if it would have been not unenjoyable and the fact that it would have been predictable, that would have bugged me. But overall, solid show. Very good show, top to bottom. I have to say the one thing I disliked about this show was just the women's match. I felt like they weren't given enough time, and we only got like one women's segment out of a 2-hour show. You know, let me see. Sounds like a 10-10 show. So you're saying it's a Preston 10 Vance, Ty Dillinger Perfect 10, and just because of that, I feel like I have to knock a couple points down. If it wasn't for that, if the women's match would have just been a little longer, or we would have just gotten one more women's segment, I think I would have given this a perfect 10. But because of that, I'm just going to give it a 9.5 out of 10, which is still a high score. Like I said, Ty Dillinger doesn't exist anymore, so I guess I should say the Preston 10 Vance. But see, like, I still use that reference because he was the perfect 10. So, but I'm really excited. I cannot wait. The build to All Out is looking good. But with that being said, you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching. Give it an Omega perfect 10. That doesn't make sense. Omega perfect 10. He's not 10 though. It's just Preston 10 Vance and Ty Dillinger. That's 10. Well, anywho. So with that being said, you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching and for your continuous support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. If I don't see you guys tomorrow after Impact Wrestling, I definitely will see you guys on Friday after AEW Rampage. So have a great night. Bye.